Keir Starmer is someone who opposed Brexit back in 2016 and wanted Britain to remain in the EU. So how could his election change the UK's relations with the European Union? Well, to talk about that, I'm joined on set by France 24's Caroline Clarkson, who has been looking into the issue. Caroline, you wrote an article before the election about the fact that Labour really didn't say much about Brexit during the campaign. Why is that?
That's right. So this can pretty much be explained by what we call the red wall. Those red wall seats that traditional Labour voters who deserted the party at the last election in 2019 and voted for the Conservatives, Labour really needed to win those people back. So the party just avoided talking about Brexit. Why? Because a lot of those people voted for Brexit. And Labour was worried about thinking that mentioning or criticising Brexit would put those people off. So they played it very safe. That seems to have paid off because they've now won back most of those seats. But yes, we've seen this sort of conspiracy of silence about Brexit during the campaign, even though Keir Starmer himself opposed Brexit.
Yeah, I mean, it is a divisive issue, so I can see why you'd want to avoid it. Now Keir Starmer has taken office. Are things going to change then in Brussels?
So I'll tell you what's not going to change, Alison. We're not going to see the UK rejoining the EU, the single market, the customs union, or accepting freedom of movement. Labour ruled out all of those things in their manifesto. So, obviously going back in a manifesto pledge, not a good idea. So we can probably expect that those things won't happen. Also, Starmer doubled down on the eve of the election, saying he didn't expect a return to the single market or the customs union in his lifetime. However, never say never. The expert I interviewed for my article, very interesting. He said that if Labour wins a second term in office in 5 years' time, and people think increasingly that they want to rejoin the EU, so if public opinion shifts even more that way, and if the UK doesn't see much economic growth, there could be increasing pressure on the government to reassess that stance. So that's looking far ahead. In the short term, what we can expect, Labour have said in their manifesto they want to reset relations with the EU. So the trade deal that the Conservatives negotiated, that comes up for renewal next year. We can probably see some tweaks to that, for example, on reduced checks for British food exports, that kind of thing. Labour would like to do more. They'd like, for example, to do a deal for touring artists like musicians to make things easier for them. But basically, that could be difficult. So in an interview with The Telegraph last month, Michel Barnier, so remember, he was the chief negotiator during the Brexit negotiations. He basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, he basically said, no cherry picking from the single market without accepting freedom of movement. And like I said earlier, Labour have ruled out freedom of movement. So this just shows how difficult it's going to be for Labour to, improve relations, do more with the EU, but while remaining fully outside the bloc.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you can't really have it both ways.
Exactly.
But I guess it remains to be seen. We'll see if things get a little softer between the EU and the UK. Caroline, thank you so much for that. That's Caroline Clarkson, a reporter from our internet desk.